Hello everyone. For anybody interested, I thought I would do a quick first impressions of the Moon Baby Tarot. If you don't know, which, you probably do, but if you don't know what the Moon Baby Tarot is, it was a Kickstarter, began by Brant over at Moon Baby Tarot. Trying to get my rings on, oh my god. And it was just shipped out a couple weeks ago, and I received it yesterday. So it's just a recoloring, as well as some other changes to the Hoi Polloi Tarot, which is a I think 70s vintage Rider-Waite deck. So I'm a Rider-Waite boy, and it was the first and the only Kickstarter now that I have that I've ever backed, and I was super excited about it, especially being my first, being an RRWS, having that, funky 70s vibe, and I received it yesterday. So here she is, the Moon Baby Tarot, and I don't think this is going to be a long, video. First impressions. So the packaging was done extremely well. It came with the deck, of course. Came with a little thank you note. And then it came with this, which is awesome. I mean, his name is Moon Baby, right? So I don't know if they all come with the moon, if that's specific for everybody, or if they come with a different major. I don't know. Probably the moon, because, Moon Baby. But I couldn't be more happy because the moon is like one of my favorite cards, right? And like, look at that. Yes. So it's probably like doubled it. Well, 1.5 times the size of a regular card. I mean, it's big. So I'm not sure what I'll do with it, but something cool, I'm sure. And then inside the box, you get a little guidebook, which, is more than necessary, or more than what is necessary. It's the Rider-Waite, but this is cool in case you're an absolute newbie beginner, which, the Rider-Waite is great for newbies if you're liking the artwork, especially this deck. It's fun. So this is really cool, because we didn't need a little white book, but it's really cool looking. It's very succinct. So, super cool. And then we have, ta-da, the deck. I love the backs, the key on the backs. I don't even mind the white border anywhere on the cards, it just gives it more of a vintage vibe. And then obviously I'm not going to go through the entire deck, but just so you can kind of see, well, there we go. It's got those really fun, funky colors, the 70s. So, blues, pinks, greens, purples. I think all the swords, the quartz of the swords are purple, purplish pink, but super, I've already flipped through the whole thing myself, looked at all the cards. I mean, they're very Rider-Waite. The biggest changes are that, like, the backgrounds and some are just, kind of disappeared. And we have, some things omitted. Like, one thing I was really sad to see, and this isn't Brant's fault by any means. The Hoi Polloi didn't have this either, and I'm not even going to look her up, but the Queen of, as I'm looking her up, she's right here. The Queen of Wands doesn't have her kitty. And, like, I'm so, that's just a part of her to me. So when I was flipping through, it didn't take me but, 1 second to notice, like, oh, no kitty. But I looked it up, and I did, I looked through the Hoi Polloi, and that didn't have the kitty either. I think just to make it more clear, I guess, I don't know why the Hoi Polloi took some things out. Maybe because with all these fun, in-your-face colors, the surrounding noise would have been too much. So what you do get, though, is a very clear. All the cards are so super clear in this deck, and I'm really loving it for that. It's still got, the image you need, but it almost gives it, I've noticed stuff already flipping through this deck that I didn't, that I usually don't notice in a regular Rider-Waite deck. Because the line work is, just very clean, neat. I think without the distracting backgrounds and stuff. It forces you to focus a little bit more on certain things. So I really do think this is probably a great deck, besides being expensive because it's an indie deck, for a newcomer or anybody that likes the Rider-Waite. Like, I love his change. This has changed. They're in the same position, I believe, the titles of the cards, but the font is different, and I think it's backwards, but sorry. I love the font. It's, you know, it works perfectly with the feel of this deck. Another thing I absolutely love is the cardstock. The cardstock is phenomenal. You know, I don't know where he found it, but great job, Brant, on the cardstock. I think next to the 80s vintage Rider-Waites, you know, like the pre-copyright, and even some with the copyright, that really matte feel of it. Next to that deck, this is my now favorite cardstock ever. It's matte. It's got a little bit of a sheen. I don't even know if you're gonna, you know, a little bit, see? You know, and it's gonna look like even more than what it is on camera. There's not much of a sheen at all. It's slick, but not like Wild Unknown slick where they stick together. I mean, can you hear it? They're gorgeous. It's gorgeous cardstock. See, they don't stick. They overhand beautifully. They riffle beautifully. I'll give you one just so you can see. I mean, you heard it. So, you know, in a deck like this, I try today not to be so much into aesthetics. Like, you know, if I'm gonna really feel a deck, it's gonna be because of the artwork, not because of, you know, necessarily the cardstock or the borders or blah, 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 blah. But when you do a remake of a deck that's been remade a million times, such as the Rider-Waite, like the aesthetics need to be on point. Like that's kind of what one is selling when they're remaking a deck is, here's a remake. It, you know, maybe not necessarily better, but different in ways that people are going to enjoy. Because if it's not any of those things, you haven't done anything to improve on the deck, nobody's going to want to buy it. It's really not worth much. But Brant has done a lot to bring the hoi polloi back, and then improve. The coloring is great. The cardstock is great. The backs are excellent. No, it's not reversible. I personally don't care. Some people will, and that's, you know, is what it is. But the back, the key, genius, like just everything about this deck is great. Almost everything. So now that I've talked it up, and sincerely believe it is an awesome deck, the couple qualms that I have that I haven't mentioned until now, because I promised myself I'd do it all in one video, is, if you haven't noticed yet, the edging. It is in a pastel pink. When I think one of the stretch goals was doing the coloring the edges. So when we got to that stretch goal, Brant had a vote for everybody that backed the deck, and it was between blue and pink. Now, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I am trying to be honest, so that's what I'm going to do, and say that when this is my personal opinion, if somebody is doing a Kickstarter and a stretch goal is met, and that stretch goal is going to change the aesthetics of the deck, it's going to change something pretty large about the aesthetics, about the feel and look of that deck, I feel like it needs to be neutral in terms of everything. In terms of, you know, sex, color, neutral in terms of religion, neutral in terms of anything like that, because people have already backed that deck and they may not have known that that was a possibility moving forward, right? So a lot of people will say pink isn't a girly color. You know, back in whenever, the 50s, you know, it was the opposite. Blue was the girly color and pink was the boy color. I will never argue about that with anybody, because I think that it's just kind of silly, okay? No, it's not a girly, it is. That's what I want to say. Like, you know, when you see pink, you think female. okay? That's just how it is in today's society. Right or wrong, whatever, that's reality. So let's stick with reality. Pink is a girly color, and that's not to say that guys can't use pink and they still can't be masculine when using pink. They surely can. But my feel on this deck is it's not terrible, and I was really expecting to be like, oh God, because I was not happy when it got pink. I mean, the community here is predominantly female, so the vote was kind of like moot. I don't even know why it happened, because, you know, it was kind of a given that pink would win. It's not terrible. I do feel like it takes it not straight up from being a funky vintage deck to a girly deck, but close. It's definitely going to draw more women than it does some men, I feel like. I could be wrong, but that is how I feel. I still will have no qualms, no issues using it with the pink edging. I don't think I'll trim it. I don't think I'll recolor it. I think it's pretty fine. I love that it's a matte edging. It is matte, which is awesome. The only thing that I wish, I guess, would have happened is if we were going to go for pink. Again, I don't think it should have been an option. I think it's the least gender neutral color, and I think any other color would have been better than pink. And just, I gotta say it. I gotta say it again, whatever. But since it did go pink, I wish it had been a hotter pink. Because the feeling, there is some pastel pinks in here, but even on the backing, it's a little bit more hot pink than it is pastel, you know? So it's not bad. I wish it had been a little bit deeper, a deeper pink or something. And then since I'm talking about that, I will also say, one of the stretch goals, I believe, was a tie-dyed reading cloth. Now, I've never talked to Brant. I don't know Brant. But I do know that on the voting, when that happened, a gentleman did write that he was pretty surly about it. He did not like the fact that it was pink, that was an option, because he had already given his money. You know, he'd already backed it. He, from what I saw on there, canceled his pledge, which you can do. So we do have that, right? Like, if you don't like something that happens along, you know, the moving through of the Kickstarter, you can cancel, which is unfortunate. He did. And I did write, you know, I agreed with him, and I wasn't a bitch. I wasn't a bitch about it. I just said, yeah, you know, I would have preferred to that the choices be gender neutral, or, you know, or just pick one that's gender neutral, any color, you know. So I wrote that, and while I know an indie creator can't pay attention to every single person, and, you know, packaging every single deck respectfully, that'd be a lot. You know, this was close to 600 backers, I think, so that was a lot of decks to send out, and I understand that. But there were only 2 people that mentioned the color. Well, more, but, you know, I think if I had had a Kickstarter and somebody had very respectfully said, you know, I understand maybe why you pick the colors you did, they go with the backs, they go with the deck, but I would have preferred to see something a little bit more gender neutral. You know, not a huge fan of the pink, as I'm a guy. I know some guys use pink. I'm not a fan of pink. Leave it alone. I would have made it a point to not send a pink one. There are other colors. There were other colors given out. You know, so, or I would have, you know, made sure at least, like, you know, if I was sending it to a guy, maybe that it had a, you know, more gender neutral color, and give the women pink. Some people are going to have a huge problem with this video, I know, because they're going to be like, stop, it's threatening your masculinity. No, it's not. It's not threatening anything. I will whip this shit out and whip these out and read in a room full of people and not give a shit what anybody thinks about my pink. They probably won't think much about it at all. But I am just saying, this seems to have really been bent in favor of, you know, the female aesthetic. And, you know, that's the case with a lot of things in tarot today, because, you know, and it makes sense, you know, predominantly we see readers being female. But when you have this kind of, when you've been backed and people have given you their money, like, you are, in a sense, getting paid to ship those decks out and to do a decent job of it. And it was done terrifically. The packaging, impeccable. The, the extras, impeccable. But, like, I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think that he saw my comment, and said, screw him, I'm gonna, he doesn't like pink, so not only, did we make it pink, I'm also gonna send him a pink cloth. I would doubt that he'd do that, but it wouldn't have taken but a couple seconds to say, let's just remember to give Shane, I'm not asking for special treatment. I would, that's my opinion. If anybody had commented saying, not a big fan of pink, I'm kind of bummed that, that it was voted in pink, but I'm still keeping my backing. I'm still going to give you my pledge. I would have made it a point, had anybody said that on my Kickstarter, to be like, let's, at least give him, a purple, a purple cloth. There's my hang up. There was that hang up, and, I still am a little bit like, about it, as you can see. And I'm not trying to get, like, I have no problems with Brant at all. We've never talked. I have no problems with him. But I think that as much as I appreciate indie artists and can only imagine what they go through during the process, they do open themselves up to critiquing. And whether anybody else feels the same way I do or not about this issue is, there's going to be so many people, because Brant is well known in the community, that are just going to get underneath that table and say, hey, hey Brant, nice deck, and I don't want to be one of those, like, when you are an indie creator, I don't care how well I know you or I've talked to you, you open yourself up to honest critiques, and people should be giving those, my opinion. So, would I have changed anything? No, I 100% still would have backed the deck. I am super happy to have it and to add it to my little Rider-Waite collection. It is the only deck that I've given myself permission to collect here and there, to buy a different copy of, is the Rider-Waite, because it's my deck. I love the Rider-Waite. And this is an awesome addition, in my opinion, to the Rider-Waite family. He did an amazing job. And my opinion is just my opinion. There are millions of, I don't know, millions, thousands, thousands of people that are going to love the matte pink edging. I don't hate it. But other than that, for me, the deck is impeccable. He did an amazing job. I am super impressed. And I'm appreciative that he put the time and energy into getting this vintage deck back out there and doing it so stinking well. And that's it. I'm with my day. Bye.